Hello, everybody. We're back. I'm Tom Sosnoff. It's Truth or Skepticism. Wednesday, December 20th, just after 1 p.m. Central Time. Dylan Radigan in the house. Wrapping up another year, Mr. Radigan. Another year.
I'm a skeptic of these equity markets. We won't have to spend our afternoon discussing it, but I just would like to declare skepticism across the whole situation here.
So we've been doing this show for a long time, and I don't think I've ever asked this question. I mean, it's truth or skepticism. Am I who's the truth and who's the skeptic?
It depends on the minute.
Who's the truther?
I mean, that was the unknowable question.
I got in a lot of trouble a couple weeks ago for being the skeptic on.
I think it was a week ago where you got in trouble for being the advocate of the capitalist monetary super blender as a solution for the world's housing problems.
Yes. I took an incredible amount of abuse from Tasty Nation all over the world. I got a lot of positive feedback, but I also took the most abuse I've taken. But that's okay, because that's the whole. I said I took one for the team.
To just go out in the front yard and scream, "Bring all the money!"
Yeah. I think people will appreciate that talk about after the next housing sell-off. I think people will appreciate that talk.
I think they'll come back later to thank you at the party a little later on. They'll be happy you did that.
Anyway, Dylan and I like to touch on subjects that we can, that we try not to agree on everything, and try to make it interesting. What do we got today, Mr. Radigan? Where are we going with this thing?
Before we get into the topic, I want to know, how can you not be a skeptic of these equity levels?
I am a skeptic. I am short right here. I mean, it's easy not to be a skeptic. Well, it's easy not to be a skeptic because, there are a lot of people that believe that you don't fight the Fed, you don't fight the tape, and the trend is your friend. That's the easiest.
You run those three lines. Next thing you know, you're sending a wire transfer.
Exactly. Next thing you know, you're liquidating, you're mortgaging. You're about to mortgage the house and buy SPY ETF.
Well, once I remind you that the trend is your friend, it's a whole different meeting.
Exactly. But the other side of the coin, which is, my side, is, I'm a contrarian, and I've waited a long time to get to 1,700 in the NASDAQ, 4,800 in the S&Ps. I think we're at a level right now where I don't think they're necessarily going to turn around, crash and burn from here. But if you had to ask me, what's the risk reward at these levels? I mean, if you're playing the upside here, you're risking one to make a third. You're risking one, you're risking $1 to make 30 cents. And if you're playing the downside, I feel like you're risking 30 cents to make $1. So it has nothing to do with, it's just a function of, where's the velocity of return?
Gravity. That's all. I'm sort of.
That's a pot odds play, but the world doesn't think like that. That's a contrarian thinking. That's a tasty thinking, but it's not a worldview. That's
even after what is it, 10 higher highs and 10 lower lows. I mean, it's some ridiculous.
We've had 10 straight up days. Tony and I did the math yesterday afternoon. There's about 0.09% for 10 or 11. I think 10 straight up days. If we stay up today, we're unchanged right now, but if we stay up today, we'll be going to 11 tomorrow, which gets you down to 0.4%, 0.04%. Not tenths, 0.04%.
So anyway, the point is, it's logical to consider.
Absolutely, at least for a little bit here.
All right, to the topic of the day.
Yes, let's hear it. Woo me.
This is a question. Maybe because like your alter ego, one of your many alter egos, I suppose, expresses through one of your chief of staff / writer / strategist people. And he called me earlier today and he said, "Why don't you ask Tom today something that no one's ever asked Tom? And for that matter, has never asked me." If he was pointing the finger at both of us, in truth.
Okay.
And the question is, and not this is not in a moral sense. It's not in a human sense per se, but in a professional sense. Who are you? Are you a trader? Are you executive? And it was a window into a discussion of what is a job? What is it? Is it what happened to the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, and the sort of trajectory of the future economy, where the definition of a given job, because I'm sure you could give 10 answers, right? I do this, I'm an executive, I'm a trader, I'm a media guy, I'm a salesman. But without speaking excessively, which I already have, to go back to the beginning, who are you professionally? How do you see yourself? What is your skill, profession, offering, contribution, lesson, leadership, role?
That is a really, that's really interesting because when I think about it, I'm just
because just think, and I don't even mean to make it so personal, because you could say the same thing to a bunch of us, right? But it also goes bigger to the thing of, like, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm going to go to school. You graduate, all the kids that don't go to school anymore, all the different sort of the Instagram world, the YouTube world, the branding world, as a reflection of the change in the nature of what jobs are. And then I'm an AI prompt person, or this and that. I'm sort of being very extreme, but I thought about it very personal, like how would I describe what I am or what I do and who I am, or who is Tom or whoever. But then it's like, well, how people define themselves relate to what our economy is.
Well, because I keep it so funny in my mind. Every time you say, who are you? I keep thinking of, Who Are You, the song. I kind of grew up in that.
You got the echo?
Yeah, exactly. And now we come full circle. I don't know if that was like, 40 years ago or something, over 40 years ago.
The philosophical circle is complete.
Yes,
after
exactly. Decades. Yeah, we've come full circle in 40, 45 years. Who are you? I think it is a very different world, and who we are in 2023 is defined very differently than who we were. Like, if you did a man on the street right now and you ask people, who are you, or who are you,
or what do you do,
who do you want to be, who are you, the answers that you're going to get today are incredibly different from the answers we would have got through any other generation or any other time in history. And I think it is much more difficult to define. And it is also, I think in today's world, you are much different than whatever you see yourself, whatever your role is, or whatever your job is and everything else. I do think it's something that is incredibly different. And I think that's really a positive, by the way. I don't think there's any negatives about that at all. I think that's one of the most incredible things about social in general, is just that we have opened up a completely new universe. And that's kind of why I'm so bullish on kind of the future of, the internet, as they would say, or Web3, however you want to describe it, because I think who we can become is truly limitless. Like, there was a time, I think the same thing goes, it's almost like an extension of technology. There was a time 25 years ago when the barrier to entry was how much money you had to buy hardware in order to build technology. And that was a huge barrier to entry. And that limited the number of companies that could actually build technology firms, which is why the technological revolution took so long. And
yeah, I remember when I was started at Bloomberg, it was a big deal when they would buy these data general machines, And one of the sort of Bloomberg moats at that point was all this data, all these analytics, whatever. But these data generals next to the New York Stock Exchange that had good, fast numbers that no one else could get.
Yeah, I remember a time when we were raising money to build the first firm that we built, and the whole purpose, our whole capital raise story was around, we need a couple of $1 million in just Sun server equipment just to power up, the data feeds from the exchanges. And all of a sudden today, that barrier to entry is down to zero. You can basically just, you buy it on demand, and it's incredible. So just like technology is completely different than it was 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, because the barrier to entry is almost non-existent for anybody today. The same thing has happened with individual opportunity and who we actually are. So you can have so many different roles, opportunities. You can be so many different people. You don't have to be conventional in any way, shape, or form. And the internet of the future of the internet has afforded, both technological opportunity and personal opportunity just to create. You can actually create a personality now where you could, or you can create a persona where you couldn't, a decade ago or 2 decades ago.
Who are you?
I'm not sure exactly. I've never thought about it that way so that I can answer that question. I don't know. Let me think about that. I don't know, because I've never actually thought about that.
Oh, no, but you were started out as a trader, right? / banking associate.
No, I always considered myself, if you asked me what I did for the first 20 years of my life, after I got out of college, I would tell you that I was a trader. If anybody asked me, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a trader.
Yeah.
And that's a very broad statement, by the way.
Covers a lot of territory.
Covers a lot of territory. In Chicago, it was, everybody knew what it meant, because when you say I'm a trader and you live in Chicago, everybody got that
definition of these buildings and this type of trade.
Yeah. Everybody understood that. But outside of Chicago, nobody knew what the hell that meant.
It might be you're running tea out of Dubai.
Exactly.
You might be a chicken trader from Cairo.
That's right. I'm moving spices out of Mongolia. Nobody knows what the hell you're doing.
Could be anything.
Right. Exactly. So I'm a trader meant nothing. But in Chicago, everybody knew what it meant. They just didn't know what floor you're traded on, but they knew what it meant.
And it defined a culture and a sort of way, a job.
It definitely defined
the job.
It definitely defined your job here in Chicago. There was, tens of thousands of traders, and they made up a big part of the spending part of the economy in this city. It was very clear. This city was built around traders. Mm-hmm. And so, but if you ask me after that, I still to this day say, when people I just meet for the first time, they say, "What do you do?" I'm saying I'm a trader, because I like that. I kind of like that, but there was a time when
self-anointed title at this point.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
It's true.
Yeah. It makes me feel good. It's what I say. I'm comfortable with that. But still to this day, a lot of people.
It also doesn't beg a lot of new questions. If you say I'm an entrepreneur, if you say I'm a media personality, if you say I'm a founder, then they ask a lot of questions. If you say trader, they're like, oh.
Yeah, nobody wants to go down.
Nobody
wants to go down that rabbit hole. But I do feel like today that there's a lot more to what I do. And part of it's, building businesses, part of it's the social side, part of it's, like a media side. So I love all the different things you can do. And, I don't know if we could have built Tasty if the barrier to entry in the media space hadn't been lowered. We were one of the first firms that took on digital media in the financial space, but the barrier to entry was low enough at that point that we could do that. Mm-hmm. If I had to build a competitor to CNBC or Bloomberg with all the equipment required, I don't know if I could have pulled that off.
Because that goes to your hardware as overhead in the transition.
There's still a lot of hardware, but it's a little different. At least we can distribute. you know. But I see where you see the discussion is so interesting to me because today, you know, when kids are going off to college or they're graduating college and they say, you know, you say like, hey, what do you want to do? You know, that's a very different question than it was, you know, whenever. And I also think the limits of what you want to do, you know, you can't box anybody in anymore.
Yeah, you can go from filmmaker to engineer to botanist
To deliver to an Uber driver to
Uber driver
yeah.
to barista to construction worker to plumber to digital artist in Seattle.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing is anybody can be a digital artist now. That's the amazing
that's
thing.
what I'm saying. Like, so if you have that math, so now you can go truly philosophical. If the who are you question is increasingly less anchored to how you spend your time or how you make your money, it starts to return the who are you question to more philosophical domains of the Greeks and ancient Romans and, you know, Nietzsche and the Germans. And I do wonder, you know, like if you look at some of the places where the, you know, Japanese culture or Italian culture, where the social infrastructure still is more important than the work in a lot of these sort of, whereas in the Western culture, more, I would say European or American culture, the work tends to take at least equivalence, if not precedence, over the family structure. I'd just be interested. I think there'll be I guess what I'm saying is I think there's social consequences of the fact that people, I think, will increasingly identify less with a specific job role or title as who they are.
I already think that's happening today. I think that's happening, you know, with what you do at Tasty. I think that happens with what I do at Tasty. I think there's a whole team of people here. You know, I was just sitting in the other room and I was talking to, you know, Nick and Mike, and they, you know, they do research, they do live content, they do live shows, they do, you know, they handle some support. I mean, everything. You know, like it's all the roles.
But whatever it is, let's say you get to have all these hats from creative to technical, engineering,
exactly,
to operational. You still need some economic ecosystem, and which in the case for all of us at Tasty, including most importantly the customers, is the interaction between content and then regulated broker dealer.
Yeah, so that is the challenge that is the challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs face. That is the challenge that a lot of companies today face. And that's where the marketplace makes the big bets. You know, that's where the big bet was on Amazon. Could you convert? That's where the big bet was on Meta. You know, could you convert? Could you change? Essentially, that was a big bet on Apple, but it was a little different because Apple was more of hardware than those.
Amazon's a great example. Amazon's the ultimate example. For all those years, they believed him.
Meta is, you know,
yeah.
TikTok. I mean, you know, a lot of what Google does. I mean, it's crazy how these companies have managed to, some of these great companies have managed to play into the hands of that whole message. That narrative is what's made these companies so great, is that they had the vision to see that there was something, you know, way beyond just pushing out, you know, videos or just pushing out.
That the business is not just the margin on a video shipment. That the values and the equity of being the company that people go to for entertainment. Right? Like it changes the value of the stock. If the value of the stock is based on the margin of video rentals like Blockbuster or growth in video consumption compared to being the global hub for all entertainment, you get a different multiple.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that is, again, that's the genius of a bunch of these companies, but it's also the genius of what I believe is going to be, and I think a lot of people have a really hard time visualizing this, but it is what the future of the internet is going to look like. And it's going to be in the form of, you know, combining. I think I wrote about it last weekend, but I think that you know, and I took this line from an email that somebody sent me, but it's kind of the ultimate combination of digital and physical. and it's kind of the combination. So you have the digital physical, which makes sense to everybody, but it's also the ability to have this kind of, it's traditional mixed with digital or social. There was always something traditional about everything, but there was never a social aspect to it. That was always like private. And now there is a social aspect that is combined with traditional that creates all this crazy amount of value. And I think that, then the other side of it is this, there's this physical combining with digital, which never existed before as well. And that is just intensely, there's something intense about it. And that creates another huge amount of value.
But also redefines what a job is.
Yeah, totally. So people,
if you're at a 20-year-old or an 18-year-old in front of you, or a 23-year-old, not that they want to listen to anybody, but just philosophically,
well,
what do you think preparation looks like for young people into this world that you're contemplating?
The preparation is differentiation. So where your value is now, there's always value. You can never discount the value of smarts, because you can't teach. It's very difficult to teach smarts. You can't teach how, you can't teach smarts. But now there's a value. There's a whole nother side that where your personality has this incredible value that it might not have had, whenever else.
Ever.
At Tasty, when we first started, I remember every single person that came in here looking for a job, we said, well, if you're willing to put yourself out there and you're willing to, kind of expose your whole, everything about you, we're interested. If you're not, if you're a private person, it doesn't work. And I think that, a lot of that can be, a lot of our success can be attributed to the fact that everybody here has been okay with, kind of opening up their lives to whatever. I mean, I always thought that was like the greatest thing about, about certain, both television personalities, from like Johnny Carson on, or, shock jocks like, Steve Dahl and Howard Stern and sports jocks, just shock jocks on sports radio. Same thing, Mad Dog. Yeah, the whole deal. That's what I always loved about Mike North when he was on here. It's just, just the whole exposing everything, because it's all about those relationships with those people, not, that's it. That is the interesting thing. Now everybody can do it. Now you fall in love with some crazy guy doing a food review, eating a cheeseburger because you like the way he talks, and it's just like.
For sure, that's true. That what I'm thinking about is whether the perceived ease and appeal of that as a way to generate income and freedom is distorted, such that
sure it is.
The preponderance, it's like, oh, I want to be a pro athlete or I want to be an astronaut. Well, sure, but the number of, Mr. Beasts that exist on YouTube is a short list.
Yeah, for sure.
Right down the line, which I don't care about that. I don't care about I just wonder whether it creates a distortion in the talent pool of creativity.
I mean, does a superstar athlete create a distortion? Like, because it's unrealistic that you're going to get there? Does a superstar like actor or actress, just create a distortion because a lot of people want to get there? Or does an entrepreneur like, a Zuckerberg or Bezos or something, or Elon Musk create a distortion because other people think, well, if he can do it, why not me? I mean, the answer is I don't think so. I think you need all those people to create interest, but can somebody else at a different level achieve like a ridiculous amount of success? And was that available to you, 20, 30 years ago? I don't think so.
At the same time, there are people that we both know that you can ask them who they are. They'll say, I'm a lawyer or I'm a doctor.
There will be, but and
I'm a banker.
And that will never change. Those people will always be, Those people will always be those people. Those people will always be, that will always be the story. But I'm not so sure that they are. I think that's the minority now.
That professional services even is all ultimately a minority to a majority that is physical, digital, traditional, social, and somewhere in those four pieces mixing something.
Yeah, like I don't ever expect to see my our deal attorney on TikTok, but if I did, it wouldn't bother me.
But imagine if you really liked your deal attorney from some white shoe firm, really smart, Princeton or some such thing. You're like, man, thank God, Joe's our lawyer, or Jane. And then you're flipping through TikTok. And
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I know that I like it.
That is the reconciliation of our time.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. I don't think
you'd be like, pay him sooner, pay him faster, pay him, get him paid.
The hard thing is, and this becomes the challenge. The challenge will ultimately becomes, where do you draw the line? Like that's the whole issue with Elon. Like where do you draw the line? Like I say
between the boundaries of tradition and the chaos of digital social.
Exactly. Where do you draw the line? Like how
they don't
far,
like when he smokes pot, and they don't like when he really jabbers at the stock.
How far do you push it? You have two different directions. You have the Elon Musk direction, whereas you create you become the richest person in the world. You create all these amazing companies. You're boy genius 12 times over, but then you get yourself into trouble after that. Or you're the other side of the equation, which is like the Kardashians, which is you create this amazing social presence, and then you turn that into billions. And then you shut up, and then you're off the air. Then you basically
cash it in and call it a day, and assume no traditional authority.
Exactly.
Just run social, digital, physical money.
That's why, in this crazy way, I look at Kim Kardashian, and I go, "Wow, what a freaking brilliant strategy!"
Like slick, very LA.
Very LA, but very
brand into physical, into digital, into physical, into money.
The whole family, incredibly shrewd, like
Kris
crazy.
Jenner.
I don't even know if they had any idea what they were doing.
Kris Jenner might be the most effective media CEO of our generation.
Yeah.
In terms of the hand she was dealt relative to another media CEO, in terms of her playing the hand she had. Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. And then there's, and there's a lot of people that were able to do it in just certain ways that are just, it's really remarkable what you see today. And I find it super cool because I grew up in an era where, like, if you wanted to acquire that kind of, status, whether it's wealth or whatever you want to call it, it was
traditional was the only way.
It really was. It was traditional was the only way. You had to
DOJ, Merrill Lynch.
Yeah, you had to Jack Welch it. Yeah, you had to. I'm telling you, you had to Jack Welch it. You had to do it. CEO of Exxon type Rex Tillerman or whatever his name was.
Yeah, I love Rex.
I mean, that's how you had to do it. But
that's the North Star.
Yeah, but now you don't. That's gone. Nobody's created that way anymore. It's completely opposite.
Nobody wants Rex. Now they want Kardashian set up. They don't want Tillerson set up.
Of course.
Tillerson's got to work all the time. He's up his ass. Problems, people, money, governments.
Yeah, then you take a job as like Secretary of State, and then that's all you're remembered for.
And you're known as a butt of a joke.
Right.
Meanwhile, Kardashian's over there selling underwear.
Lots of it.
50 million a month.
Lots of it. Crazy stuff. So,
so you're not worried about distortion?
No, I'm not.
But the thing that I most enjoy, even as a point of self. So let's do this. How in the world of physical, digital, traditional, social, where do you view yourself? You're from the traditional house. Both of us are technically.
Yeah. I think 20 years ago, I would have said I'm pretty traditional in the sense that, I So one
You
trick
started at
pony.
DLJ. You worked in Parliament. I mean,
I mean,
come on.
I would say I was a one trick pony. I would say now I'm kind of I'm more digital than anything else, but I'm a little social and a little traditional. But I'm much more digital. And I love the digital space. I wish I was better at social, but I don't, I kind of miss that generationally, it's
Not
tough.
made for men like us. It's not made. Men like us were not made to win at social. If
Yeah,
we're winning at social, society has bigger problems.
I think that's fair.
Like social was made for more important, younger,
Yeah,
cooler cultural figures to control,
yeah.
or else we're doomed.
But I can see how I love it. Like it's like I love that part. I love that that's available. I think it's the coolest thing.
And you can partner with people and employ people and develop people and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
create
yeah.
for
But I mean,
people.
the whole concept of the whole concept of digital, the whole concept of just all the things that truly differentiate us today. It's pretty wild. Yeah, I love it.
I had a friend years ago who was a movie producer. This is 30 years ago. We right after maybe 3 or 4 years out of school. And I said, "What do you think the job of the future is? Like after the robots take over, abstract as a abstraction." And his argument that everybody would become a movie producer. He's like,
Fine.
if everybody had money, like if the world was where I was like, if you have a utopia, but people need work because human beings are wired for purpose and task and mission and stress and whatever, what would that job be? And he argued it would be producer of some kind, music producer, film producer, creative producer, which now 30 years later, I would argue he may have been more right than wrong. YouTube, like all of this is ultimately more and more people.
But the beauty of it is so much of it is not produced. So much of it is
Somebody's produced something. I mean, they shot it to, I mean, even if all it is a camera and an edit, like somebody did something or else I wouldn't see it.
yeah, it's not produced. It's basically
It's not
like
polished and edited the way that a traditional producer
yeah, it's
would.
live streamed. It's great.
But content becomes the economy of the future, is the point. In the sort of in the perfectly resourced economy.
Well, I think that's, I mean, in a crazy way, that we felt that all along, that content was the future. I mean, 15 years ago, I sat around and argued that content was the future because it's the
only mode.
it's the only thing that you can't commoditize. Like you can commoditize rates and fees and all that kind of stuff. You can pretty much
UI.
commoditize technology, right? And the one thing you can't commoditize is content. The one thing you can't, there's too much creativity. There's too many different ways you can go. You cannot commoditize content. So that's also one of the reasons that I never liked education as content, because education is static. And education, you can commoditize education. That's the problem with higher education in this country. It's too expensive to change a curriculum. It's the problem with high schools and middle schools and grammar schools, is that it's too hard to change a curriculum. So education has essentially been commoditized. But content, and this is why there's been such an explosion in YouTube and TikTok and everything else, you can't commoditize content. That's the brilliance of it. It's beautiful.
No, because it's the last piece of human storytelling. If you go back to caveman, this is going back to my movie producer friend's conversation 30 years ago, where I said, in the fantasy world, what do you think that? And he's like, everybody will be a content maker of some kind. Tied to his belief that the original job was to tell stories at the campfire by the caveman, and everybody loves to listen to a good story. And at the end of the day, good stories surface to the top of TikTok or Instagram or whatever. So the modern storyteller is the live stream. It is the Twitch stream. It is the live stream of some kind.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to witness it all, and I'm glad I got to participate in it all, because it's so freaking cool, and it's also so damn entertaining. Like, it doesn't, like, I kind of feel like it doesn't get any better than, it doesn't get any better than this. Like, this is it.
I think this is the golden age of
I do.
content.
I do. You know why? Because it'll never be commoditized, but it will be abused. It'll be abused in the sense that it will be manipulated. Right now, this is the age of pure content. So it's the age of purity in content. So, like, I'll go on TikTok and I'll watch stuff and I feel like it's pure. Like, it's not forced. It's very real. And I know there's certain things in there that are, that are marketing. I know there's certain things in there that are, set up or whatever. But for the most part, what I'm watching is pretty damn real, and it feels real. And it's why it's enjoyable.
Where this is this person with this dog or in this car or doing this thing in this place,
Yeah.
in this situation with this waterfall,
Yeah.
whatever.
The person that is washing their dog in their shower and videoing it, or
That's a real person.
or the kid that's paintballing their mom, so she falls off a ladder, is real good stuff. Like that's the kind of stuff, that's fun stuff. And if at some point, when there's subliminal messages in there and it's all, manipulated a certain way and things like that, then that'll hurt a little bit. But right now it's like, it's almost pure. It's like a fresh snowfall, and I like it.
Are you suggesting that AI and enhanced production will reduce the raw nature of the feed, if you will, over time?
They will try to. There will effectively be a version of, high frequency AI marketing that will, the marketing bots will take over AI at some point, and they will try to manipulate, social pages. But the beauty for us is that I don't think that's a near-term risk. And I think that most of the people that pay the bills are a long way away from that. I do sense that the future of, like, last weekend, we did our first digital marketing event. We created a digital collectible, and we did it to see, how it would work for us relative to kind of traditional, live content. We tried digital content, and the simple answer was it was a massive success. We reached more people around the globe than we could have ever reached, using some other medium. Now, will we do it all the time? No, but will we do it? Will we integrate it into the way we do, the way we create content? And the answer is sure, because we gave a lot more people an opportunity to see what we do, and that's incredibly valuable. And the vehicle for doing it now and the cost of doing it is a fraction of, the cost of traditional marketing.
I have a friend of mine who's a senior executive at one of the biggest ad agencies out there right now, who just has a good handle on,
Okay.
the big corporate budgets for, like, who's whatever, all this.
Yeah.
And they told me that just in the last 2 years, 2 years ago, they might have spent $10 or $15 million to acquire some specific audience or measure or whatever the metric was for that. 10 million people to do this thing or whatever their metric was. For $300,000. Same outcome. Now, just in the past couple of years.
Yeah. I can tell you that just based on our own numbers and our own, researching this, it is going to dramatically change the way traditional marketing works. And it is going to be a huge improvement. It's going to pass down to the consumer too. Like, this is not AI driven. This is digital driven, but the consumer is going to benefit in a huge way. And I think that this is something that, we can all be crazy excited about, because I think that it is going to make a difference.
make a difference in communication and make a difference in what people do for a job, make a difference in who people are.
Make a difference in what certain things cost, make a difference in what people do for a job, and make a difference in how we get our messages out there and the number of people we can reach. What it means for a firm like Tasty is that in a traditional marketing sense, it was very difficult for us to compete with the Schwabs of the world. They spend $300 million on marketing. We spend, whatever it is. No,
Right, less.
probably 30 million. And
But a lot less.
a lot. So we spend, 1/10. And yeah, this levels the playing field.
Because now I can get you $10 million worth of audience for 300 grand
Yeah.
or less.
Yeah, it's 1/10, basically.
And you think what you did with the live stream with Tasty, with that whole thing, is an example of that sort of high value, low cost, high connection.
It's the first step in that direction. We create our world's a little different, so we create like very practical content, which is not what everybody else does. So the way we market through content is it's actionable, it's practical, it's
the highest value to the smallest group of people.
Exactly.
But for the people that it's valuable to, it's very easy to sell.
It's nuanced know-how, and it's not a mass audience. I don't.
But it's also very valuable to the small group that knows what it means.
It's crazy valuable. Yes.
So they're happy to be around the rim.
Yes. Well said. Well, we've run the course. It's a very interesting discussion, very high level in the sense that we don't usually get this philosophical, but I think
I figured on the eve before the eve of Christmas here, it was a good time to understand who we are. Who are you, Tom? Who are you?
Got to go back and play that song right now.
You're going to play that tonight. You're going to have a good time. You'd be like, who am I? Anyway, what is this?
Play that funky music, white boy.
Just spin it up.
I'm Tom Sosnoff. He's Dylan Radigan. This is Truth or Skepticism. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks so much. Have a great week, Dylan. Have a great holiday.
Bye, you too. Everybody as well.